Want to start creating custom assets and modifying FiveM's world? In this video, we'll cover the basics of CodeWalker and Blender, showing you how to create a simple prop, place it in CodeWalker, and integrate it into FiveM. Let's jump in. When you open CodeWalker, the first thing you should do is press T to bring up the taskbar. Next, click the small button in the top right to expand the info panel. In this panel, make sure to enable mods and DLCs so that we can edit everything in the game world. Now, let's set up a new project. Click the New Project button here, so we have a dedicated space to add and manage our custom files. Moving around in CodeWalker is simple. Use WASD to move forward, backward, and side to side. Hold the left mouse button and drag to look around, and use your scroll wheel while moving to speed up and slow down. To interact with objects, enable Selection mode in the right side info panel. Right-click on any entity and you'll see a white selection box around it. This confirms that we can modify it. At the top of the screen, you'll find tools for moving, rotating, and scaling objects. For example, we can move a prop by selecting it and dragging it. Instead of deleting objects, we usually just move them underground to hide them from view. Once you are happy with your changes, you simply need to open the project window, go to the Entities section and calculate flags and extents before saving it to stream to FiveM later on in the video. There are also different selection types, such as Entity, Collision, and Occlusion. These will be important when we start mapping later. For now, just remember that Entity lets us move props and objects. Now that we understand the basics of CodeWalker, let's hop into Blender and create our own prop. Now that we are in Blender, to move around, click and drag the middle mouse button to look around the viewport. To move the viewport left, right, up, or down, hold Shift while clicking and dragging the middle mouse button. Now that we know how to navigate, let's begin. Now, let's create a simple prop in Blender. Open Blender, use the A key to select all, and simply delete the default cube and items. Now add a new mesh. For this example, we'll create a simple wooden crate. So we will select the cube option here. Use the Tab key or press up in the top left and select Edit mode to modify your mesh. Adjust the vertices, faces, and edges to shape your crate. Here I am going to press Ctrl and R, which will allow me to add loop cuts. I am going to add the first one, and next I'll simply adjust the settings below. Now I will do the same thing facing the other way. Now in the top left, let's change from vertices mode to face mode and select the faces we want to extrude. You can hold Shift to select multiple faces. Now we have the faces we want to extrude selected. We will right-click and select Extrude Faces along normals, and then move our mouse till we're happy with the result. In my case, I want this to look a little flatter, so I'm going to use the A key to select all the faces. Next, I am going to select the Scale tool from the left menu. And finally, I am going to shorten it along the Z-axis to make it a little flatter. Now the shape is ready. You can go wild and make anything you want. This is just to go over the basics. Next, we will move on to texturing for this tutorial. I am going to use two textures just to show you how we can use multiple textures on one model. First things first, in the top right, change the viewport to Material View, like so. This allows us to preview the materials we're going to add. Then click the N key to bring up the Sollumz tools, or click the little arrow at the top here. Now for textures, you can look up Free, PBR materials online. I use Ambient CG and Polyhaven for most of my textures. Here I will pick and download one from each site. Now I must convert these textures to .dds format for them to be compatible for the game. This is a crucial step. You can use Photop to achieve this by importing the diffuse or color map, the roughness or specular map, and lastly, the normal map. Once you import these files into Photop, go to File, Exporters, More, DDS, and ensure MIP maps are enabled, then simply click Export and save to your texture folder ready to use. Back to Blender. The first thing we're going to do is select our object by left-clicking on it. Then we will expand the Drawables section of Sollumz and open the Shader Tools menu. From here, scroll down in the list and find Normal Spec. Click it to highlight it and then press the Create Shader Material button. We will press it twice, as we want two materials on our object. Now in the bottom right menu, we will select the Materials tab. And as you can see, we have two materials which, for the sake of this tutorial, we will rename to Texture 1 and Texture 2. Now we have set up our GTA compatible materials. We are going to left-click the object to select it and press Tab to go back into edit mode. We'll make sure we have face selection mode on. Now I am going to select all the polygons that I want as one texture, and I've chosen to do the corners first as there is less to select. Now over in the right menu, we will assign this as Material 1. Next press Ctrl and I to invert the selection. And again, in the right panel, select the second material and assign it to those polygons. Now I unselect everything so I can check whether it worked. To do this, I select the material in the right menu and click the Select button, which if you did it correctly, should select the correct polygons. Now if we scroll down in this menu, you will find a section called Sollumz. Expand that menu. Now expand texture parameters. You can see we have diffuse, which will be the actual color or diffuse texture. Next we have the bump, which is where you can put the roughness, and finally spec, which is where you'll put the normal map. Now we'll select the little folder icon next to each and put in the relevant files that we downloaded earlier from Polyhaven and Ambient CG. Now that we have our first texture in place, let's select all the faces of that material in edit mode. Select UV from the top menu and select Cube Project. If this doesn't work, or you have a more complex shape, try using some of the other UV unwrapping options. Now that we have the texture applied and the UV unwrapped, we'll pull up another viewport from the bottom, and in the top left of each viewport, you'll see a little symbol "Click this" and open the menu and select UV Editor. In the UV Editor, you are able to click A to select all. Then you can use S's to scale it to your liking. You can also use R to rotate and G to move the selection. Now we'll use the Material panel to select all of the other polygons and follow the same method to apply our second texture. Again, remember to embed your textures and unwrap your texture by clicking on the UV button and selecting Cube Project. And again, I'm going to scale the UV to a size I like, adjusting it until I'm happy. Now I'm going to check out files are loaded correctly and that our textures are all embedded. Now in the top right corner, we are going to select the Overlays tool and select Face Orientation. This will show you the model in either red or blue. We only want to see blue as red, won't show to the character in game. If any parts are red, you can select them in edit mode, then click Alt and N and select Flip. To flip the normals, you should see it change to blue. You can then select the Overlays tool to turn off Face Orientation mode. Now let's get this model game ready. Here I am going to rename my model. I'll call mine test_prop for the sake of this video. Now I click A in the viewport to ensure I'm selecting everything. Next I'll open Sollumz and select Drawables. Then create drawable objects, ensure center to selection. And if you want this item to have a collision in game, you can also select the Auto Embed Collision option too. I'll do that for my example. Now you can see Sollumz has set up our hierarchy for us. As we have added an embedded collision, we need to select it and head down to our Materials tab. For now, I'll hide the main model and make sure I have the collision model selected. Now I'll simply remove the two textures we made earlier from our collision. Do this by using the minus button here. Now, in Sollumz, open the Collisions tab and select Create Collision Material. Here there are many options to pick from. However, in my case, I'm just going to go with the basic default collision material. I'll click Create Collision Material. Now there's one last step before we're ready to export. Select the BVH part of the hierarchy. In the viewport, click V. Then select the Apply Flag Presets option. This is crucial to ensure it works correctly in game. You can see if it was successful at the bottom of the screen. Now let's unhide our main model, and we're ready to export. Here I expand all my folders, and then, in the viewport, hit the A key to select all. You should see it all highlighted in the collection section. Now go to Sollumz, General, Export, and inside the folder menu, I am going to create a new folder to store my export in, so I can find it easily, and also select Export with YTYP. This will automatically create your YTYP, saving you a lot of time. Please note, this does not work if you need to add portals or other advanced features, but for a simple prop, it should work fine. Once I have the folder created and YTYP creation ticked, I'll simply click Export. Now you can see, we have our model, YDR and YTYP. These currently show as XML, so we need to use CodeWalker to convert them. In CodeWalker, select Tools and open the RPF Explorer. I will include an example of the folder structure I go through here, which will be more useful in our future videos. We'll navigate to Mods, Update, x64, DLC Packs, MyMlo, DLC.rpf. In here, you will see Content and Setup 2. These will be included in the download for you. Then x64, Levels, GTA 5, Ground. And here, you will create an RPF folder for your project. Select Edit Mode, right-click and click New, RPF Archive. Call this whatever you want. You can also rename the folders MyMlo and Ground to something more suitable. These are just how I created it the first time I set this up. Inside your new RPF, I named mine test _prop.rpf. Drag all your files over and then click your YDR to view your model to ensure it all works correctly. I am going to rename my YTYP just to help organize things. Now, I'll select the YDR and YTYP and extract raw. I'll create a folder to store this in. I'll just name it Stream for mine. Next, we need to restart CodeWalker for these changes to take effect. Once CodeWalker is back open, we will select to open a new project window, and we will click here to create a new YMAP. In the top navigation, we'll select YMAP, New Entity, and change the prop archetype to our prop name. In my case, this is test_prop. As you can see, it should show up in the viewport. Now, just as I explained earlier, you need to use the tools to move and rotate it to wherever you want it. I'll just put it here for now, and rotate it a little. Now I'm happy with where it is. We'll simply click Entities and recalculate our flags and extents. Rename the YMAP to help with organizing things, and click to save it to the same folder we saved our YDR and YTYP. Next, click Tools in the top navigation bar and select Manifest Generator, and then simply save it to the same folder as earlier. Now we're done. Here's all our files. The last step is streaming this into the game. To do this, we will go to our resource folder. I'm assuming you have a server set up and ready to work with. Inside resources, I'm going to create a new folder with my asset name here. I'll put test_resource. Inside, I'll create a simple text file and name it exactly as I do, fxmanifest.lua. Now I'll open it with either Notepad++ or the more preferred Visual Studio Code and input the same as I do. I'll again provide this in the description for you to simply copy and paste. The top two lines and the bottom one are the only important ones in our FX Manifest Lua for the prop to load in game. The rest are optional. Now we'll save this as a Lua file. Make sure you change it here from text to Lua and simply hit save. I can now delete the old text file and be left with just our Lua FX manifest. Now simply create a folder called Stream and place or copy your files into this folder and run your server. Please note the FX manifest and the Stream folder are very important to name correctly, otherwise you may run into issues. Now we'll add our resource to our server config to ensure it starts when the server loads. Let's hop into FiveM and see if it worked. As you can see, the prop loads into the game, the textures look fine, and there is a collision we can climb on, or drive into. That's it! You've learned the basics of CodeWalker, created a simple prop in Blender with embedded collision, and placed it into FiveM. In the next episode, we'll take things to the next level by creating a simple MLO and setting up the correct metadata to ensure it works in-game. If you found this helpful, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon for more modding tutorials. See you next time.